Hi, fellow traders. What's happening? How many of you guys got IPO fever today? I know I did. I couldn't help but get it. When I woke up this morning, all of the little news shows that I listened to, that's all they were talking about was this Coinbase IPO. And so you couldn't help but get intrigued by it. But I don't typically trade IPOs. And of course, everybody knows what an IPO is. But basically, the people who put up the insiders, the people who put up the initial funding to get the business started, it was private, but you had investors that own shares of the company, own parts of the company. So when they do the public offering, they offer parts of the shares that they own, the pieces of the company they own, to the public. And basically that's what it is. And oftentimes companies only release so much. You don't get but so much released to the public. I mean, over time, if a company needs money, that's when you see these secondary offerings come, and you typically see the value of the stock drop. The more stock you have out there without the company becoming more valuable, the more you dilute it, the less the shares are going to be worth. So, it's really kind of complex how they come up with it. And I just really didn't have any interest, never had interest in trading IPOs. I did pretty good with what I had. I knew that eventually, like the earnings trades, I was going to add them as I got better. The IPOs was always something that was out there that I was maybe thinking about, but I couldn't really find a strategy where the edge made sense to me. So I just never messed with it. But today, of course, I just kind of played around, just kind of having a little fun, so to speak. Um, but it was. I don't recommend it because it is different. Okay, trading IPOs is different, but just like any other strategy, you got to have an edge. Like with the earnings strategy I trade, I've got an edge. So with the IPOs, you got to have an edge. You got to really know what you're doing and understanding, how this thing works. So it's not something that I've gotten involved in, and you're gonna see less come out because more companies that are starting up are going the private funding route, and they're getting money from a lot of these initial investors with the goal of going public down the road, which would make these initial investors, incredibly rich when this happens. But so you're gonna see, I think you're gonna see less and less of these IPOs dropping. So when they do, you're gonna have the buzz like we had with this one. So it's gonna be interesting to keep an eye, on this stuff. But you know me, if you've been with me for a while, I have a 6 month rule where if a stock is less than 6 months old, meaning its IPO drop less than 6 months from now, I don't trade it. I don't touch it. To me, I consider that contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and I'm not going to touch it. I don't want Chris Hansen coming over talking about, hey, why don't you have a seat right here? Let's talk about why you took this trade. I don't want to go down that road. So I typically stay away from them. But today I played with it. And I still got 50. I've got 50 shares that I'm holding overnight to see, what happens with it if we get a big gap, a big run. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. So, the market today kind of took a rest. You see, we pulled back. We're sitting on a 5-day. This is what's been holding this up for the last couple of weeks. If we pull back and get a close below the 5-day, we're coming back to the 20-day. Potentially, we can lose the 20-day and come back to this ascending support, which is right where the 50-day is sitting. I really believe there's a good possibility that can happen. I was really looking for it to hit this ascending resistance and then pull back, because I felt if it hit this, we would get a stronger pullback. But we still can get it. We're still in no man's land. We haven't lost the 5-day moving average. So it can gap up tomorrow into this and sell. I wanted this thing to sell, to run up and try to sell going into the close Friday. And so at some point next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, we can get some good technical swings off, because the market will be, ripping back up. There's no trading. Swings just don't make good moves when the market is kind of fluttering like it is. Yeah, we're going up, we're trending up, but it's just fluttering. Again, look at how long this market traded in a channel. Look at how long it traded in a channel. 2 o'clock, just like yesterday, we had to move. That's when it made its move. But it's really hard to get swings to move a couple, 3 or 4 points a day, like we like to see, so we could take profit in 3 to 5 days. So for that, we're just kind of waiting. But tomorrow is going to really be interesting to see where we are. I'm really kind of interested in where we're going to go. Are we going to start to pull back, or are we going to hit that level, that ascending resistance, and then start to sell? All right, so this morning, this isn't my first trade, but we did get a really nice trade, and this is the move, the kind of move I was looking for yesterday on SQ. And boy, did I whine, moan, bitch, complain, and it worked. So maybe that's what I have to do. But whatever it is, I got in this. I waited for it to get under and claim the 200. All right, I didn't buy it on the break of the 200. I waited for it to claim it, meaning we closed below it, and I waited for a candle to make a lower low. All right, now you could see why I bitch, moan, and complain, because this candle opened here. We sold off. As soon as we broke the low, I got in, the damn thing ripped back up. And then we started to sell. And so I just started taking profit. Now I took this a little bit early. This was a little bit early cover. And I took the rest down here. But it still turned out to be a really, really, really good trade. It just looked like we were running into some mega support here. And, I went ahead and took some at 269 versus waiting to 269.75. But, it was pretty good. I felt pretty good with this. I mean, went right to my final target. It did sell through, but remember, we're not trying to top tick and bottom tick these stocks. We're trying to get the meat of the move. If we try to top tick and bottom tick, that adds a whole nother layer of frustration to our trades, and we can actually end up making less money. So I'm always going to, make sure that I'm getting the meat of the move. And then later on in the day, it did break down again. I was looking for a move down to 268, but it got hung up. 258.50, but it got hung up here at the whole dollar mark. You could clearly see it. So I took profit there, and it ended up turning around. So that was a smart move there. So 8 times out of 10, it's not going to fool you. What you see happening is actually what's happening. So we saw it bouncing. We saw it changing. The momentum was changing. The pendulum was swinging. And so we just took profit here. I could have bailed out and just took the whole thing off and then reset. But there was still a chance that this could reject and then come back and hit this level before it ripped up. So I didn't want to give up that opportunity. Facebook, this was the one I traded at the open. Okay, here's the opening trades over here. Or the early trades. 936. And I bitch, moaned, and complained with this one too. So there wasn't anything different about this. But we sold off, got the first, didn't quite get to the first target. But I took some off. We bounced, and it looked like we were, the momentum was shifting. The selling pressure was going away. You didn't see the sellers coming in. I didn't see any fight in this. The only thing was you had people that were selling on VWAP. And those are the ones that came in, but they got ate up too. So I took it off, waited for the next one to come through, was taking the channel break here, and it failed. So I ended up getting stopped out, took the channel break again, just got a little base hit. So nothing to write home about. We're getting the little base hits, which is fine. The stop outs, I'm not letting it run. I'm keeping it close to the vest, sticking to my risk management, and we're coming out on top of these. BA, now this is the one that I really got a little out of sorts on. What I was looking at on BA. Okay, here's a 5-minute opening range high. And so I wasn't so much concerned about the top of this channel right here. I wasn't so much concerned about it because the thing just kind of chopped around, and I felt once we got our legs under us, this thing was going to, really start to work. So I got in on the break here and ended up getting stopped out and got back in because I put my stop just a little too tight. And by the time I realized that my addition was off, it had already pulled back and stopped me out. So I jumped back in and ended up taking it off. I don't know why ended up taking it off, and then waited for it to break the top of this channel, and I got in and it got stopped out. So the question was, why was I so caught up and determined to trade BA this morning? if you guys in chat, one of the scans that we use is options, the option flow scanner. So all of the options that are coming into the market, we can see. So BA, we started to see 265, 275 calls coming in. Here was a 260 and here was a 260. But I was focused on the 265, 275. And I'm like, hey, these 275s are for next week. That they may be trying to grab this. And then the 260 calls for Friday. So worst case scenario, we should get a run to 260. And that's what I was looking for on this stuff. But it just wasn't happening. I think when sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good. It gives you confidence that, hey, the stock's gonna go, and you can see it tried its best, but it just couldn't do it. So that was just my mess up. It wasn't that I wasn't doing anything right. It's part of the edge. This is part of my edge. This is one of the edges that I feel I have. Knowing how to use the option flow data to enhance my trading, to help me, have a better chance at a winning trade. But just like everything else, it doesn't work all the time. And that's the exciting part about trading. Just like I was saying yesterday, we don't know how much money we're going to make from day to day. We don't. We don't know how our trading is going to be. So each day is a new journey. It's exciting. And so I know every trade plan is not going to work out. And it may work a little bit. I just have to accept all of that. But later in the day, you can see we got a short here. The channel broke here. Going into the close. Did not sell off. Stopped in the middle of nowhere again. Got my first target and took the rest off. And now, here's the Coinbase fiasco here. So I bought 50 shares in my TD account because I was looking for it to bottom. I was waiting for it to sell off. Everybody dump their shares, it's going to dump it. And then people start to buy. Kathy Wood, the ARK lady, the ARK ETF, she bought a shit ton of this Coinbase ETF. And that's probably what we saw here. But she probably started buying it at 310. I think if they didn't start buying it at 310, it would have gone down to 300. And that was my mark. 300 was my mark. That's where I wanted to start buying it. But it bounced. It looked weak here. It looked like we were selling off. Once we broke the low, I was like, well, why not hedge the long trade I have? So if the long trade doesn't work, if this starts to sell, I could dump the long trade and I could make the money back and then some on the short. And that's kind of what I did here. But once it got back over the 9, I was like, okay, this was just a fake. They were just trying to bait in sorry people like me who don't know what the hell they're doing, don't have an edge, just trying to figure shit out. And so I flipped it long. And it did not make the move I wanted it to make. I thought we were going to run up to 400 after the market closed. At first, that was my initial thought. But when it showed all its weakness, I said, well, hell, it might sell off. So we didn't know. But here, once it kind of told me we were going to go to the long side, I was expecting it to rip after the market closed because, you know, the stock won't halt. If it runs up, it just keeps running. We've seen Tesla do this after market plenty of times, but it didn't do anything. So all I did was make back the money that I lost here. I made it back here. So it was just kind of a wash. But like I said, I have no edge. I have no clue what I'm doing with IPOs. Is something that I'm going to be learning going forward to see if there is a strategy, if there is an edge I can use to help me when these do actually come around. But like I said, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of these going forward. So today ended up 808.07. You can see practically break even on this Coinbase, $20. So basically a break even trade. So what I made is what I made just trading and doing me, which is pretty good. You know, we had a slow day Monday, another slow day yesterday, probably a self-inflicted slow day both days. There were opportunities that I just missed. But today I think we caught the big one and took some other base hits here and there when we could. $800 I'd take any day. I'd take this any day. If I could do this every day, I'd be good with a small account, bringing in $800 a day. If you're trading like a $30,000-$40,000 account and you bring in $800 a day, I mean, you're gonna grow. You're going to grow. And that's what it's all about. It's all about growing. It's not about making one good trade today and making one good trade tomorrow, but you don't know, what happens outside of those good trades. All of that stuff counts. And that's what's going to either add money or take money, out of your account. So, got to be wary of that. So that's it for me today. We're going to go into tomorrow revved up and ready to go. Those of you that left early, we did get the chat room back online. It was something wrong on my end, and I think it had to do with the Windows update that got run last night. But I got all that squared away, so we should be good to go tomorrow. Shouldn't have any issues with you guys hearing me or seeing the screen share. So you guys have a good one. Take it easy, and we'll catch you first thing in the morning.